Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running and nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben Crossman, and everyone out there, hey, how you doing? I really hope that you're doing well and you're ready for some Computer America. So today on the program, we have computer and technology news for the full hour. Really looking forward to this because there's a lot to talk about, and one of them that's if it upsets anyone, I apologize beforehand, but you know what? We got to talk about it. I wasn't going to, and then I realized, man, this is a lot more than just a Twitter spat. And yeah, if you haven't guessed it already, there's some news brewing between the U.S. government and big tech companies, and I wanted to dive into that and see what was going on because. Don't get me wrong. Whenever something like this happens, I normally say, this is only going to be on social media. It's going to be about Twitter. No one really cares at the end of the day. It's whatever. But turns out today being Thursday, the president is already looking into signing some executive orders to make some changes the way that social media works. So that definitely puts it within our purview of computer and technology news. And hey, it's what we're going to lead with, and we're going to spend as much time as we need to really break this down and see what's going on. So everyone, before we get into that, which is just going to be so much fun, but everyone, before we get into that, computeramerica.com, that's where you'll find everything, including today, yesterday, and more, all the show notes that you'll ever need for Computer America. You'll find them right there at computeramerica.com. You'll find past shows, future shows, articles, reviews, podcasts, everything and anything that we do here for the program, you can find right there. It's just that simple. While you're there, also be sure to find us on social media. Any social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all those different ones. We promise to get more active on those. We apologize. But it's probably the best way to find out what we're doing and how to keep, how to keep up to date. computeramerica.com or at computeramerica on any of those social media sites. So with that being said, everyone, let's go ahead and get started with computer and technology news and just jump right in, both feet. Here we go. So, everyone, let's go ahead and get talking here about today's immediate, the immediate news. And this is going to be from The Guardian. And this is just one that we picked up. It's been published on almost every other tech news site that you can shake a stick at. And here we go. Donald Trump. Donald Trump's move against Twitter, fact-checking could backfire. There's going to be a little bit of opinion there from the author, but really the meat of the whole thing, this article explained it the best. So Donald Trump apparent plans to punish Twitter for appending a fact-check to his claims that mail-in ballots could be substantially fraudulent, could reshape the web, but not necessarily in ways he or his supporters intended. So the immediate the thing that we were just going to gloss over and ignore, that Twitter, Donald Trump, and all the bluster that comes with social media, we were just going to write off the fact that, hey, he's having a fight with the with the CEO of Twitter, so it is what it is. But now we're looking at something that Donald Trump will be looking to pass by executive order, and he's going to try to tear down the Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, and it's the law that underpins much of how the internet is regulated. And and by effectively creating the hybrid publisher platform model that has become the norm for social media companies worldwide. And this is, don't get me wrong, social media has been an evolving kind of space, because up until 20 years ago, nothing like this had ever happened. Of course, you had stupid little things like GeoCities, and of course, you had messaging boards, which I'm not calling stupid, but kind of the pre-internet way to communicate on the internet. And then, of course, you had MySpace, Facebook, Twitter, of course, came up. So many different social media platforms. It was kind of like an evolution, and how we got here. It was a slow evolution, but now we're looking to kind of upend that. So before the CDA, which was, again, the Communications Decency Act, passed in 1996, American communication firms had two options under the law. They could either act as mere conduits, passing on all content without alteration, which is much like a phone service. If you were to pick up your phone and say some objectively horrible things, your phone company was not going to start bleeping and censoring every other word. Like they say here, it's just a mere conduit. Or they could intervene, moderating their platform by taking legal liability for anything they let pass. So, of course, what that means is much like newspapers. Let's say they got a photograph printed in a newspaper that was obscene. That newspaper would then be liable for any kind of, they would be liable for publishing that photo, because they moderate their publication and they let that go through to their publication. That's where that's where we're standing now. The internet is obviously kind of a mixed bag. The internet itself, in a lot of ways, it is a mere conduit. I mean, you can send it and receive information just as it is in so many ways, but in many other ways, it's very, very censored. If there is illegal content on the internet that is policed all the time, if you are caught with it or looking at it, you can definitely get in trouble, and as you should. Some of that content should not be distributed via the internet, or be allowed to be distributed freely. But of course, that means that some parts of the internet are curated. They are censored. And then, of course, you have things like social media, where social media will, if you, let's say there was, this happens all not all the time, but it has happened on Facebook, on their live video feed, where people will commit crimes, or, they'll unfortunately harm themselves on social media. And those videos and all associated videos with that are very, very quickly deleted. I mean, there was the unfortunate mass shooting in New Zealand of churches. And, all video footage of that was quickly deleted. Clearly, social media is not a mere conduit. They do curate the information, but at the same time, it's not coming from a singular source like it would say a newspaper. It's a giant, I was about to say cesspool. It's a giant meeting place where tons of people can come and have many differing opinions, and they can communicate as freely, I think, as the platform itself would say, as freely as the government would have their say. It's been, like I said, this slow evolution where we're sitting now. There's not very clearly defined laws over what is and what isn't acceptable. We saw that on full display on November 2016, surrounding the presidential election and what happened with Russia and social media manipulation and that kind of thing. And it's definitely been, tightened down since then. I bring up the 2016 election because that is a direct result of what we're talking about today. Trump and his tweets were labeled as misleading or false by Twitter and their automated fact-checking system, saying that, quote, mail-in ballots would be substantially fraudulent and will be substantially fraudulent and lead to voting manipulation. And for Twitter to fact-check that, put a little asterisk next to it and say this is not a true claim, they've been doing that with a number of news sources and a number of other sources. This is just the first time that Twitter has gone after the President of the United States. Now, here we are. Like I said, if this went as far as Twitter, where the President of the United States said, I don't like Twitter, and Twitter said, well, we don't like the way that you talk, that would be the end of it. But here we are now with executive orders. They say that Section 230 changed that by creating a legal exemption that allows platforms to moderate their sites as they see fit without taking on the risk of being sued for the content that they leave up. So that's how social media were operating, Section 230, just like I was explaining. It holds that, quote, no provider or user of an interactive computer service shall be treated as the publisher or speaker of any information provided by another information content provider. They're saying that the clause has been described as by the lawyer as the 26 words that created the internet. You can see how that would fundamentally change the internet, where if that section didn't exist, if Facebook and Twitter and all other social media sites had to take responsibility for everything every user said, they wouldn't exist. Facebook would never, as an organization, would never be allowed to flourish as it had. This idea that anyone can go on, talk about what they wanted to, and then if things got a little suspect, they would shut everything down. That's just, social media wouldn't exist the way it does today, and I think this lawyer is right. The internet would not exist the way it does today. Otherwise, you'd be reading everyone else's publications and never having a voice of your own. And if you didn't want to have a voice of your own, if you allowed anyone else a voice on your content, then you would be legally liable. If you caused any kind of panic, harm, if people have been doxing each other, things like that, you would then be held legally responsible for that. That is not what social media is about. So the law has been widely misunderstood in the years past, and noted that neoconservative think tank AEI, they said that with one unfortunate persistent misunderstanding being that it requires platforms to exercise political neutrality. As a result, it has come under increasing attack, particularly from the US right, which believes that it is the victim of undue censorship from major web platforms. I have definitely heard those cries that conservatives feel that their opinions are certainly, and I gotta say that I really do feel like this is going to be a far right kind of thing. Not just like all conservative, but certainly those who just categorically describe themselves as conservative, they feel that they have been under censorship from the likes of the tech giants, from Silicon Valley, from California. However they want to put it, they feel that big tech is shutting down the right wing. So, according to a draft of, and so that's where we are now. And here we have Trump. According to a draft executive order seen by Reuters, Trump plans to hit back at Twitter by weakening Section 230. The order would require the Federal Communications Commission, the FCC, to clarify the law in a number of ways, proposing that editing content could lead to a platform forfeiting its protections under Section 230, as well as looking at whether it uses deceptive policies to moderate or if those policies are inconsistent with its terms of service. So, immediately, what started this whole thing again? Trump put out a tweet. Twitter labeled it as misleading. And now they want to say that editing tweets would then make them forego their Section 230 protections, saying that obviously Twitter is not responsible for all of the content put up on Twitter. And if they do edit the content, then they're saying that they give up altogether. I gotta say, though, this was the best middle ground, and I think it still is the best middle ground that Twitter could strike. The information that the president put out was false. And instead of editing the tweet so that the words strictly read something that the president didn't put up himself, instead of editing that, Twitter decided to put an asterisk, which, again, is the middle ground. Other than taking it down or changing it altogether, they decided that, hey, we're going to clarify this. We're going to quantify this statement and not just take it down. And yet they're still going to be facing this challenge from the FCC. So they're saying that if the FCC follows suit and implemented the suggestions into regulation, the primary goal appears to be to force companies to dial back their actions for fear of losing their protection. A ban on editing content, for instance, would seem to be a target towards, like Twitter, who appended Trump's mail-in ballot tweets, while the ban on deceptive policies has been interpreted as an attempt to formally introduce a requirement for political neutrality into the Section 230 constraints. But the regulations could backfire, at least in terms of creating the internet Trump desires, by barring social media companies from using the nuanced forms of moderation they currently employ. The executive order could force them to resort to heavy-handed actions, deleting posts, blocking users, rather than simply fact-checking and reducing the reach of the worst material. Which, yeah, at that point, if you take away some of the moderation tools that they've been developing over the past couple of years, then they have to fall back on what they know works and what they know won't run them afoul with the FCC, and that is banning an account, deleting tweets, and just overall, like the article said, being heavy-handed. Completely agree. They also say that removing Section 230 protections entirely from a technology firm would be unlikely to force it to act as a politically neutral mere conduit, saying that since any moderation at all, even simply deleting the vast quantities of automated spam that hit platforms such as Facebook and Twitter each day, would then open them up to lawsuits about the content that they had left up. There you go. So, and obviously, if you have been on Facebook and you've seen the amount of spam, the pictures posted over and over again, the statements, the click here to buy this, and the cheats, the frauds, the scam artists, all that kind of thing, no link would ever be removed from social media ever again if they were to remove Section 230 protections. So again, it's either super heavy-handed, you are now even more at the mercy of the tech giants and how they're moderating content, because right now they're trying to do a nuanced approach. They're trying to take down content or validate content as best that they can, and if they can't do that, if editing or adding anything to the content is taking responsibility for it, they're just going to take down anything seen as potentially damaging. And then again, the other one is just a bloated awfulness of a social media site that is every single link, every single piece of false information, everything just being drowned out by spammers, which would also be the death knell of Facebook and Twitter and really all other social media, because as soon as something would gain traction, it would then just be continuously bombarded with just fake messaging over and over and over again. So, as I said in 2019, are they saying that you don't do any moderation at all, a free-for-all? I seriously would not want to be on the internet if that was the case, and I gotta agree. A truly free-for-all internet is not something that would really go over well with the average person who uses the internet as they do today. So, and this whole topic gets into another part of technology that we have talked about on the show before, but we don't talk about it too much because we get a lot of angry emails. But when you have this supposed free-for-all that a lot of people think that they want, this free-for-all leads to a very polarizing nature where you have one side that is getting very entrenched in their ideology and what they feel is correct, and then you have the other side that gets very entrenched in what they believe, and instead of having this free-for-all that you think is just going to be a nice even spread where some people might be way over here and some people may be way over there, and you have really everyone else in shades of gray in the middle, that's not how it works out. We've seen time and time and time again when you allow any and all information to be kind of posted onto websites such as, let's say, 4chan, for instance. You have these websites that they tend to alienate the people in the middle, the people who are the moderates that can go one way on an issue or another. Especially when you're talking politics, you alienate everyone in the middle, and everyone who's left that isn't completely exhausted by this constant far left, far right kind of conversation. Everyone picks one of their camps, and then they kind of radicalize themselves even further into one of those two camps, and everyone in the middle either joins one of them or they leave the platform altogether for something that is a little bit more even keel. And like I said, Twitter has its bad parts, Facebook has its bad parts, but I think compared to other services that we've seen in terms of popularity, the amount of people, the amount of ideologies and discussion there that we have on these platforms, love them or hate them, Facebook and Twitter, they do the best job that we've seen in attracting new users and being able to maintain that sense of, order when it comes to online conversations that a lot of places just don't have. So for President Trump to go after Twitter and by extension Facebook and Google as well, saying, and I think Apple would be even thrown in here as well, for them to try to weaken Section 230 and say that, hey, if you edit my tweets, then you give up your ability to be a social media platform, then that's not going to lead to the results that he wants. And it may actually destroy Twitter. If no legal objections are put up to this, then Twitter's going to have very few options onto how to regulate its platform and what's going to happen in the long run. But I completely see this coming under legal scrutiny. So let's see. We had that article, and I think, yeah. And then, of course, just a little follow-up. This is coming to us from the New York Times, saying that defying Trump, Twitter doubles down on labeling tweets. This just happened like an hour ago. And they're saying that defying Trump, Twitter doubles down on labeling tweets, saying that Twitter continued fact-checking posts even as Donald Trump threatened to limit protections for social media. I think Twitter would totally bring this to court. They would never allow this to become law because really this would be the end of the social aspect of the internet as we know it. The networking aspect would still be there, but the social aspect of it would be heavily jeopardized. So let's see. Let's go ahead and get to the meat of this, and then we'll go ahead and move on. In a series of tweets on Wednesday, Jack Dorsey, Twitter's chief executive, also said that he would not back down from fact-checking effort, will continue to point out incorrect or disputed information, he wrote. And with that, let's see. So They said that Twitter's confrontation with Mr. Trump has also opened new fissures in Silicon Valley. They say that while Mr. Dorsey, who's again CEO of Twitter, has doubled down on fact-checking tweets, Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook's chief executive, has distanced his social network from that effort. In a taped television interview that ran Thursday morning on Fox, Mr. Zuckerberg said that I just believe strongly that Facebook shouldn't be the arbiter of truth in everything that people say online. Which is fair, but that's not the conclusion that we came to just a couple of years ago, where we did want to hold Facebook accountable for the spread of misinformation, for its platform, for reaching 1 billion plus people with fake and false information. The buck has to stop somewhere, and I know that Mr. Zuckerberg would save billions of dollars in their efforts to curtail, what is true, what isn't. But at least, providing good information shouldn't be illegal. Saying that, hey, these statements are not completely true should not be something that social media sites give up on completely. Otherwise, like I said, you've run into the mere conduit problem and this idea that, hey, anything goes, and that's not a recipe for success. They said that his comments were at odds with some of his company's own actions. In the past, Facebook introduced fact-checking labels using third-party services to reveal potentially false information. Facebook and Snopes had a deal for a number of years before it was actually Snopes. Yeah, it was actually the fact-checking service that threw up their hands and said, there's so much bad information out there, we're not even making a dent in it. We have to step back. So the approach has been scattershot and uneven, and critics have argued that third-party fact-checkers have been unable to keep up with the billions of pieces of content on the social network. Facebook has also said that it would not allow posts that facilitated voter fraud or misinformation designed to specifically to suppress voting. We're talking about that as if it's about fact-checking, but it's not. It's about whether the platform will facilitate fraud that undermines civic engagement. And I think that's really the point, is that there are, it's we're not asking Twitter or Facebook to take a side in this. We're asking Twitter and Facebook and social media sites to provide information. There are categorically false claims that can be made on these platforms. And you can say 2 + 2 is 5, and something as simple as that wouldn't be fact checked, but at the same time, you can say, I've run the numbers, and 2 + 2 does not equal 5. Does not equal 5. Turns out it's 4, and that's the information they should then provide to people who are looking for answers to what is 2 + 2. We're not asking them to weigh in on that. Just, hey, there's false information, there is correct information. Let's try to associate the two. And it shouldn't be that hard, but at the same time, it is a massive problem logistically. There are billions of posts every single day on Facebook and Twitter. No way you can get every single one of them, but at least you can get some of the more popular ones. And for better or worse, the President of the United States does have one of the largest, if not the largest, reaches on Twitter. And so starting there seems like a no-brainer. That's a place you would go to really, to make sure that all the information coming from that is 100% accurate. So there you go. Computer America doesn't really get into politics all that often, and unfortunately, politics likes to get into technology all the time. So there you go. That's a story that I wanted to definitely talk about, get into, and just see. Oh, actually, let's see. Yeah, and we have another story here that we're going to throw into the show notes. I don't know if we're actually going to talk about it right now. This has to do with Mark Zuckerberg and what he was talking about when it came to fact checking. So we'll probably throw this up in the show notes as well from Ars Technica. And yeah, So they say that, let's see, just going through here. Zuckerberg has bragged about fact-checking when relating to the COVID-19 virus. In a call, he told media that in the month of April alone, Facebook's fact-checkers put 50 million warning labels on COVID-19 content shared to the platform. Those labels were super effective. 95% of the time, viewers didn't click through the content that had been warned to be false. We'll continue to point out incorrect or disputed information. That doesn't make us an arbiter. That does not make us an arbiter of truth. Our intention is to connect the dots of conflicting statements that show information is in dispute, so people can judge for themselves. And really, that's what they have to do: is simply connect what is third party, no horse in the race, all objective. What is third party accurate, and what is in dispute, what is questioned. So there you go. If you want to read into any of that, I think we covered it pretty darn well. The executive order was just someone got to look over it from Reuters. They weren't able to read the entire thing, and of course, since it is just a draft of an executive order, it may change here. Some of the language is really just directing the FCC to look further into other things. So there definitely will be changes to the language and what they're actually asking for. But as far as we can tell, that's as accurate as we can get. And well, there you go. So there's that story. Let's go ahead and continue on here. Story number 4. If you count that last one, it's a story. Story number 4. Let's just go all in. Let's just have fun with it. 5G. Yes, that 5G. Check this out. 5G has been, unfortunately, in the news. Even though it shouldn't be a hot topic, it most certainly is. And you know what? There are things in life called a stupid tax. If you pay $200 for an oil change, and I'm not talking about something weird or synthetic oil or strange car, I'm talking about a $35-$25 do-it-yourself oil change, and you pay $200. You go home, you tell your friends, you tell someone, and they say, you paid how much for what? Well, guess what? That's a stupid tax. You just paid way too much for a service that cost way less than that. Well, here we go. Here's the stupid tax, and it's on people who are very, very much against anti-5G. And on top of that, they don't know how the technology works. Because you can say that you're totally against 5G. You believe it causes all these different problems, and if even after all of your bathroom research, you've decided that 5G is the worst thing for you, and you go out and buy one of these things, I haven't even mentioned the product yet because it's still just blowing my mind, 5G Bio Shield. And yeah, it promises to protect you from 5G. So this is by John Brodkin, Ars Technica, and believers of 5G conspiracy theories have been buying a $350 anti-5G USB, USB key that, not surprisingly, appears to just be a regular USB stick with only 128 megabytes of storage. Despite what I just said, set that aside just for a moment, I gotta say, what an amazing use of recycling old technology. 128 megabytes. This show, Computer America, we record a 1 hour video of what we do here every single day. That 1 hour video comes out to about 200 to 300 megabytes in storage for every one of our shows. And luckily, we shrink it for you for the podcast. But 300 megabytes the show today would not be able to be stored on this entire 5G bio key that people are buying. I gotta say, for scam artists to recycle old stuff, this is a great way to do it. Don't scam people. but it's a great way to do it. So here we go. As noted by the BBC today, the 5G BioShield USB stick was recommended by a member of the Glastonbury Town Council's 5G Advisory Committee, which has called for an inquiry into 5G. Of course they did. The company that sells the 5G BioShield claims it is the result of the most advanced technology currently available for balancing and prevention of the devastating effects caused by non-natural electrical waves, particularly, but not limited to, 5G for all biological life forms. Buy a 5G protection stick for you. Buy it for your kids. Buy it for your wife, your dog, your turtle, your cat, your mouse, your house. Wait, your house isn't bio, but still. Buy a 128 megabyte of USB stick and protect everyone today. So the product's website, and I didn't even check this. Is the website still up? Checking your browser before accessing 5. So they have DDoS prevention systems. So that's good. And oh my goodness, it's real. It's Is this actually a referral link? I think I got into a referral link. That is a long string of text for something that I did not need. Let's see. So let's go ahead and put that up there. Ladies and gentlemen, if you ever go to a website and up in the URL you see a giant referral link, just go ahead and delete that. That's not really necessary. So, and I wonder why that is. Yeah, that was not put in by the website. That was not put in by Ars Technica. That must be something that they do automatically. And by the way, let's just poke around their website here for a second. 5G BioShield Revolution. For those of you who can't see, you're simply listening on the radio. You're looking at something that looks a little bit like a vape stick. It's a USB with a little bit of photoshopped smoke tendrils kind of going over it. It has like this ancient Greek, Greco-Roman sculpture wrapped around the hilt of it. There's a giant lion with blue eyes for some reason. Here on the website, proprietary holographic nanolayer catalyst technology, remediation from all harmful radiation, electrosmog, and biohazard pollution, because, you know, that's something that you can totally promise with just a little stick. Who are the cons behind this thing? Research professor Elijah Lakichevik, has dedicated his life to discover the self and true concepts and laws of creation. Oh, good. So he's a philosopher and a doctor. He has worked at institutions as reputable as the Max Planck Institute for Plasma Physics. At the end of 2000, he left all organized and structured institutions and organizations and begun his own independent research. After 10 years, he discovered the truth about the human being and true universal concepts and laws of creation. Unknown and unpublished until recently by himself in the International Journal of Science and Research. Wow. So he went out and discovered the laws of the universe by himself. Very cool. Let's see. So concepts and laws which can be applied to remediate all primary imbalances facing humanity and our planet. As pioneer of the new energy physics in 2006, he successfully demonstrated transformation of quality of the microwave radiation of a cell phone using self-created multi-layer structure without any electric and electronic components in the form of a holographic patch. The new technology, which he calls iChange, has been certified by the Haddo Life Institute. Yeah, this guy is wacko. I would love to contact you. I'll probably contact him. This seems like crazy. So anyways, yeah, it's a 128 megabyte USB stick that pretty much doesn't do it. So the 5G BioShield makes it possible thanks to a uniquely applied process of quantum nano-layer technology to balance the imbalanced electric oscillations arising from all electric fog induced by all devices such as laptops, cordless phones, WLAN, tablets, etc., the company says, adding that the USB stick brings balance into the field at the atomic and cellular level, restoring balance effects to all harmful radiation. ladies and gentlemen, if you're old enough, if you remember mid to late 90s / early 2000s television commercials, you may remember a product called the Ionic Breeze. And it was fairly successful. People were breathing in unionized or non-ionized air for millennia. And then people realized that, oh my goodness, I could have been breathing in ionized air my whole life. And then they went out and I remember they were on like necklaces. You could buy ones for entire rooms. You could retrofit air conditioning systems to ionize all the air coming into your home. All those pesky ions would be introduced or taken out. I don't really remember how the bogus thing worked. But yeah, people were breathing deeply in the commercials and it was great. This seems like a lot of the same thing. Snake oil, I believe is what you call it. So the USB stick apparently doesn't need to be plugged into anything to work its magic. Amazing! I thought it was going to be a suppository. Turns out, no, the USB stick works with just about anything. That's awesome. It is always on and working. That's why we used quantum nano layer technology. What a genius. It's a device designed to be plugged into a computer to do its main function, and they somehow managed to wrap a USB stick in nano layer technology, whatever that means, and then it suddenly works. That's cool. Why not just wrap yourself in nano layer technology, one may ask? I don't know. Maybe you don't fit into the machine that the USB stick would. Who knows? But the device allegedly produces a wider field of protection when it's plugged in. Oh, that's good. To answer the question of whether the stick needs to be charged really at all, the FAQ says no, the input charge only expands the field from a 4-meter radius to a 20-meter plus radius. My goodness. Oh, con men have existed throughout the universe and really throughout time. It's so awesome to see one in the modern age. So no, the input charge only expands the field when plugged in to a wall charger or a computer. Fortunately, you can use the 5G BioShield without disabling your Wi-Fi. The USB key does not block Wi-Fi signals. Instead, the product transmutes the signals and harmonizes the harmful frequencies into life-affirming frequencies. If you ever stood next to a Wi-Fi source and you said to yourself, I'm not feeling biologically affirmed, this may be the product for you. So, now we get to the meat and potatoes. Get this off my screen. That website is complete hokum. I'm not even going to include it in the show notes. So now we get down to the meat and potatoes of this whole thing. And you can see the product image here if you'd like to check it out. And people weirdly sitting in poorly photoshopped bubbles. The teardown. It's just a USB stick. So, but what does the 5G BioShield actually consist of? And they pointed to a recent teardown by security company Pen Test Partners, which found that the device is just a USB stick with a 128 megabyte of storage. The company wrote, when plugged into our test machine, we may have missed the bubble of quantum holographic catalyzer technology. The stick comes loaded with 25-page PDF of the 5G BioShield's website. It included a Q&A distance for the bubble and how to know if it's working. It's an always-on system, apparently. It's always working, powered or not, so no visual checks are needed. If you're looking for a bleeping light somewhere, it's probably not there. So a review of the 6 properties revealed nothing more than what you'd expect from a regular 128 megabyte USB key. We weren't even sure that 128s were still in production. And like I said, 128s, this is probably someone's recycling. This is the bottom of the barrel. We're never going to be able to use these things for anything. What do we do with them? Well, turn them into $350 bio keys. So ultimately, the 5G BioShield, nothing more than a $5 USB key with a sticker on it. The people at the pen test wrote, whether or not the sticker provides $300 worth of quantum holographic catalyzer technology will leave you to decide. So, hey, it's a pretty cool sticker. $300, probably not, but you get it. Trading Standards, they said that Trading Standards bodies should investigate this product, and they say that they have since told the BBC that it has launched a probe into the London Trading Standards, has launched a probe into this. And here's the best part. All this stuff, to any rational person, if you haven't been able to tell from my tone, complete hokum. Just absolute bullcrap. Well, the company says that the research is too sensitive to disclose. They say that in regards to the cost analysis your research has produced, I believe that the lack of in-depth information will not drive you to the exact computation of our expenses and production costs, including the cost of the intellectual property rights. She said, it is therefore hard to take your evaluation seriously since you have evidently not researched the background facts in any meaningful way. And by the way, that was the company's response to a $5 USB stick costing $350, saying that clearly you didn't factor in all of the malarkey that we have been pushing. And like we said, they're not authorized to fully disclose all the sensitive information from third parties for obvious reasons, although what obvious reasons we have, we do not know. One person who does take 5G biochip claims seriously is Toby Hall, one of the members of the Glastonbury Town Council 5G Advisory Committee. He felt a calmer feel to the home, and really at the end of the day, this thing is a $5 USB stick that might provide a little bit of a placebo boost to stupid individuals. So there you go. As our science editor John Timmer explained in a previous story, radio frequency radiation is relatively low energy and it can't break chemical bonds. Like the nearby microwave frequencies, it can heat tissue, but we're not aware of any mechanism beyond heating by which radiation at these wavelengths can damage human tissue. And there's no evidence at the population level that indicates that radiation from these sources poses any sort of risk. Essentially, what they're saying is what we have known about 5G, Wi-Fi, cell phone signals, so on and so forth. We are surrounded by them constantly. Yes, they are. Yes, they do exist. They are radiation. But let's face it, the amount of energy that they actually produce is so small, so insignificant that, hey, a couple of minutes out in the sun probably causes way more damage than any of these radiations over your entire lifetime. So, yeah, no discernible negative consequences to 5G, Wi-Fi, 2.4 gigahertz, 5 gigahertz wavelength. Doesn't matter. No big deal. So there you go. I think we're going to end it there. I was I thought this was just going to be a little joke. Man, it was a much bigger joke than I even initially anticipated. I love how psychotic this company is. And I really do truly hope that none of you fall for this. So there you go. Yeah, let's go ahead and continue on. Computer and technology news. That was story number 4. Let's go ahead and continue on to story number 5. Let's see if we can find something fun for you. So, how about we talk about Yamaha? They've been on the show before. We're very, very good friends with them. And this is going to be, you may have heard the phrase a number of times, the new normal. How are we going to continue our way of life when we can't in a COVID-19 society? And now we have the remote cheerer. Check this out. Yamaha's remote cheerer brings fans' applause back to empty stadiums. Saying that this week, Yamaha announced they plan to put fans back in the stadiums for major sporting events this summer, virtually at least. The company's new smartphone application, Remote Cheer, is designed to allow sports fans to cheer from home in a way that the teams can hear in the stadium. The app itself looks and functions much like a typical soundboard. You might have to summon a Homer Simpson's dough, but instead of making a noise on your phone, it integrates the cheers of potentially tens of thousands of fans and plays them on the loudspeakers. They say that when fully integrated with the stadium itself, the application does a better job of emulating normal crowd noise than the short description suggests. For Yamaha field tests, they mentioned that there were amplified loudspeakers placed in each seating section of the stadium, and fans' cheers were localized to the section that they would sit. So it's not like you have all of the audience coming from just one sound speaker or all the sound speakers, but if let's say they're using baseball here, for instance. Let's say someone hits a foul ball into the left side of the stadium. The people who were assigned seats in that part of it could then, of course, shout from the left side of the stadium and give you a little bit of that feel. At one point during the system field test, I closed my eyes and felt like the cheering fans were right there in the stadium with me. That's when I knew that the system had the potential to cheer players on even in a stadium of this size. So the results is a much more diffuse and authentic sounding crowd noise, in addition to the present selection of cheers and boos, which can be customized. They said that the app offers repeated tap options for the crowd to engage in rhythmic clapping and chanting, which should reproduce the imperfect timing of real-life chants and stomps. Obviously, probably not the next great app, but I do find it kind of funny. And I do like the creativity of Yamaha. They're very good at sound design, sound production, and what it is that they do. They're trying to apply it to as many different ways as they can. And hey, maybe one of those could be, empty stadiums. They could bring those back, or at least refill up stadiums. So with that being said, let's go ahead and continue on here. I think our next story, we have time for like 2 more stories if we hurry up. Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about, one of the smallest problems I've heard on the internet in a long time finally got fixed. I know, it's crazy. For those of you who don't know, a little while ago, Simpsons came to Hulu. No, I'm sorry. It's a Fox publication. Disney owns Fox. Disney Plus had The Simpsons. And one of the immediate responses was for the some of the sight gags that happened within The Simpsons didn't make sense when they were remastered for their new aspect ratio. And one of them is, of course, the 3 different beers within Simpsons. And you look, in the remastered one, you could see that the 3 vats were being filled with beer. But then in the uncropped version, you were seeing that they were all fed from the same source, and that all 3 different varieties of beer were simply the same type of beer. Simple sight gags like that did not translate to the new and updated 16:9 widescreen format. So they decided, hey, we'll go back and undo all the work that we did, and some of the earlier Simpsons, as in pre-2009, if you don't recall, pre-2009 episodes that were shot in 4:3 aspect ratios, they are no longer widescreen. So they're much more faithful to their much more faithful to the source material, and they shouldn't cut out any of the sight gags that you may have missed. So the change should appease fans, but some still may be surprised that it wasn't an issue at all. The Simpsons switched to the 16:9 aspect ratio when it made its high-def debut in 2009. When FXX started streaming the show in 2014, fans pointed out the 16:9 format applied to older episodes cut off visual cues. In response, they agreed to stream the series' first 7 seasons in their original aspect ratio. That was fine until Disney began streaming all seasons in 16:9 format, resurrecting an issue many thought were solved. So, there you go. So now Disney Plus is able to create content packages with 2 forms of single video for Disney Plus users. All of this means that they can toggle between watching the earlier episodes in 4:3 or 16 by 9 without losing any modern streaming features. For Disney Plus, the change could open up a new ways of presenting content in the future. So, hey, like I said, one of the smallest issues on the internet has finally been solved. The masses can stop freaking out now. So let's go ahead and continue on here. We have time for just one more story. And I think the last story we're going to do. Let's talk about. Okay, let's talk about Hulu, real quick. Just kind of keep the topic going. Hulu and watch parties. So if you're a fan of Twitch and twitch.tv/Computer America, but if you're a fan of Twitch, you may have seen a new category pop up on Twitch. Streamers are allowed to essentially stream their reaction to certain kinds of content that are available through Amazon Prime. Amazon owning Twitch, and they have a way that if you are an Amazon Prime subscriber, you can watch Amazon Prime content with others at the same time. They call it watch parties, and essentially it's almost like two people were sitting there watching the same thing, but it makes sure that the content is delivered at the same time to the same people as close as they can. Hulu has taken a cue, and they're doing the exact same thing. People need alternative ways to connect while social distancing, and online viewing watch parties have become a popular choice. Hulu is dipping its toes into the water by testing its new watch party feature, but there are a few limitations. First of all, only works on a desktop browser. You can't host them if you're watching on a smart TV device. And second, everyone must be a subscriber to the no ads tier of Hulu, much in the same way that it is with Amazon. To start, they click Watch Parties icon on the details page of the show or movie. A link will be generated, and the leader can send it up to 7 other people. Members can use the built-in chat feature to comment and critique, and each user can watch at their own pace. The click to catch up button will fast forward them to where the rest of the party is. If they fall too far behind, Hulu says that the watch party works. I'm sorry, I mixed those two sentences up, but yeah, they can catch up if they fall too far behind. Hulu says Watch Party works with thousands of TV shows and movies. Users can see if a title is compatible by looking for the Watch Party icon in the detail page. So they say that while it's a welcome addition, it would be nice to be able to join a session via the official app, even if that means having to cast the show or movie from a phone or a tablet. Plus, it seems doubtful that a group of friends will have access to no ad subscription. Think about it. How many of your friends, let's say you do have no ads Hulu, how many of your friends have it, and how many, up to 7 of them? My goodness. First of all, having 7 friends, that's a fantasy. And having 7 friends that subscribe to ad-free Hulu, that's Hulu's fantasy. I don't see that actually happening. So, but hey, it's watching together is something that has definitely gone by the wayside due to social distancing. Movie nights, parties, that kind of thing. It's a little step back towards normalcy, even if you still have to use the internet to do it. So there you go. Okay, so some of the stories that we didn't do, just real quick. We had this other story from Engadget talking about Uber. If you haven't heard, they actually purchased Jump, I think. Yeah, Jump. They purchased Lime, and Lime owned the Jump e-bikes. If you have been to a major city during the dreadful days when e-bikes and e-scooters were all the rage, the city streets were littered with scooters and bikes, and looks like a number of them are being recycled. Saying that Uber has sent thousands of electric bikes to be recycled for scrap as part of the handing operations of their Jump e-bike division to scooter sharing company Lime. The rideshare giant said it would be too difficult to donate the bikes because of safety and liability concerns, and they said that the best approach was to responsibly recycle them. And here you have images of literally thousands and thousands of bikes. They say that Uber led a $170 million round of investment for the scooter sharing company Lime. As part of this investment, Lime took ownership of thousands of newer Jump bikes, but they aren't the ones sending those bikes to the crusher. We have not recycled any of the Jump e-bikes in our fleet and are committed to operating them during this critical time. Blah, blah, blah. Long story short. Yeah, this is just the fate of, these bikes. They're unwanted, unused, and let's face it, it's easier to just recycle them than to actually repair, fix them up, swap the battery, do all that kind of thing. I was never really a fan of the e-bike, e-scooter kind of deal. If people out there did like it, good for them, but overall, it seems like a huge waste. So everyone, the music in the background means that we are done. I want to thank you so much for tuning into Computer America. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Tomorrow on the program, we're going to have a very fun conversation with Pop Zara, Nathan Evans, managing editor. He's a great guy. He helps us with so many events. And of course, we enjoy having him on every single month to just, hey, talk about anything and everything. It's a lot of fun. Everyone tune in tomorrow, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday for Computer America. We'll catch you tomorrow. Catch you next time, everyone. Have a good day. Bye-bye.